Hi, and welcome to Dark Window. I'm your host, Jim Mann. Here on this program, I will be talking with many of the leading investigators, researchers, and authors on the topics of UFOs, UAPs, alien abductions, extraterrestrials, and a host of many other fascinating and related topics. So please join me and my guest for the next hour as we reach out. This is Dark Window on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dark Window. Today, my guest is MUFON's chief photo and video analyst. His name is Marc D'Antonio, and I'm sure many of you already know him. But Marc also holds a degree in astronomy and is the CEO of FX Models, a company specializing in digital physical models that they use in the film industry. So welcome aboard, Marc D'Antonio.
Well, hello there, Jim. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How's
it's
things
great
in
to see you, man. You look great. Look at you. You look great. Look on you.
Look at you. You look like you're, I don't know. Where are you?
Lumberjack? No, I'm in my office. My office, we call it the ship office. It's actually a World War II battleship compartment, but not on an actual battleship. I do a lot of work for the Navy when I do model work. Mm-hmm. So I figured if I have to be in here for a long period of time, I should actually have an office that looks the part. So we have fake I-beams in the ceiling, fake, lights. Well, those are working lights that you see right there. Okay. But we have fake, panels and rust on the walls. And I actually have a hatch to open to get into the office. It's the door is a hatch. Which that's a real guy that's cave. Commitment to madness is what it is, Jim.
So Marc, you wear numerous hats.
Yes. So no tinfoil hats, though.
No tinfoil hats.
That's right. No tinfoil hats.
You are the chief photo analyst and video analyst for MUFON. How's that going? Is there anything really, really extraordinary happening right now with MUFON?
Well, MUFON, is going through all kinds of interesting, changes that are all positive. Okay. and we have a lot of people that are joining. In fact, one of my good friends, Kriston Harris, just passed his field investigator exam for Wisconsin. So, and I was coaching him a little bit for that. But MUFON's been growing. I hesitate to say this, but I've been in MUFON since I was 11 years old.
I know you told me that.
Yeah, I did. But guess that doesn't mean so much. But until you realize I was in it 2 years after it started. 1971 is when I joined MUFON. I was 11. So I'm an old guy. I mean, it may not appear that way, but maybe at times I look like an old guy. But young at heart. I mean, I can't be kept down. I mean, for crying out loud. We created remote observatories around the country. This is just nothing. MUFON, hell yeah, right? Great stuff. So MUFON's been my home since 1971, since I joined, and they can't get rid of me.
Good. You're a very valuable member of MUFON. I've known you for years.
Yes, you have.
And you are invaluable to that organization. Now, you're also an instructor for field investigations.
Yes.
I've seen you, well, I should say we've had you at the boot camp.
That's right. That's right. I was at the last one, the one before that. I think I missed, but before that, you were there. Next year, I've already been asked to instruct at the boot camp. They have me doing astronomy stuff, which is great because that's my world, right?
That's what you do. Yes.
That's my world.
Now, you're also speaking this year at several places.
Oh yeah. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. I don't go out there saying, "Hey, have me speak." I just sit back and I get phone calls. Now, I'm on a television show called The Proof Is Out There. It's on History Channel, owned by A&E. Yeah. And I'm one of the analysts, actually one of the image and video analysts. But they tend to use me kind of as a final word, maybe in many of the cases I do, because the point of what I do is to not say, "Oh, look at me, look what I can do," but it's to say, "Here's what I think we're looking at." Okay, and I just offer an opinion. I don't say those are definitely birds unless I can prove it without a shadow of a doubt. So they have me on because I'm kind of the voice of reason, I think. And I've been saying that for the 4 years I've been doing this show with them. But it is sort of like I'm sort of a voice of reason because, people tend to jump to conclusions. If they see some fuzzy dots on a photograph, they'll say, those are UFOs. And I might say, but how do you know they're not birds? Kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So, and I know that sounds simple, but it really depends on what the images have in them, what the videos show. And we just filmed 2 days ago, actually. This office was actually filled with equipment and cameras, and they were filming the first of 4 batches of stories. Normally, they do only 2 batches of stories, but now they got 4.
Is that the proof is out there?
Yeah, they doubled in size.
Wow.
Yeah, the show is getting some really good reviews. So it's doubled in size. Apparently people, and I'm humbled by this, they like what they see. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm just a contributor. I'm not the executive producer. Miguel Sancho is the executive producer. This guy, nicest guy on planet Earth, knows what he wants. He knows that he wants to get the word out. He knows that he wants to show people the truth of what they may be seeing. And if I know what it is, he wants me to tell them. Yeah. If I don't know what it is, he wants me to tell them, that it isn't, that I don't know. And that's fair, And so, go ahead.
Mark, I have considered, since I've known you, I have sort of considered you more or less a scientist in your own right. And the reason is because of your objective viewpoint on everything. You let the data speak for you. Always have.
Yeah.
In the face of so much opposition from people that have witnessed UFOs or what they thought were UFOs.
Yeah.
You were always the one that said we have to let the data speak to us.
You're absolutely right, Jim. And honestly, I'm not someone that's a non-believer. Okay, I do lectures around the country, around the world, as a matter of fact, on technology that I think an advanced race is using in order to get here. And this technology is something that's beyond us right now, but it's under investigation, believe it or not, by other people right now. And there are certain particles that you can generate around your UFO, and those particles live outside of our X, Y, and Z moving through time. Those are our 4 dimensions. Okay, we call that a membrane in string theory. And if you generate particles that belong not in those 4 dimensions, but in this 5th dimension out here, then you generate them around your ship here, and your ship gets pulled into the 5th dimension. And what does that mean? It means that you now have all the benefits of what the 5th dimension can offer. And that is much shorter distances between objects. You are in a big universe here. You get into the 5th dimension, go far enough in, and the universe is shrinking around you until you're literally just a few feet, for lack of a better term, from the nearest star. So in other words, that's a high exaggeration, but Alpha Centauri at our fastest rate would take us about 10 to 11,000 years to get there with what we know now as humans. But with the Alcubierre drive, which is the warp drive, which warps space, and basically it's like folding paper, right? You fold the 2 corners together and step across a little gap and unfold the paper, right? You don't travel the intervening space, but you get one place to another, okay? That's the Alcubierre warp drive, and you do that to space because space does bend and fold, okay? But if you use that, it's still going to take you about a week or week and a half to get to Alpha Centauri, which is phenomenal compared to 10,000 years. But what if you could do it in 20 minutes?
I've heard.
That's what this is about, right? This is what we're talking about. This technology is something we don't have yet, but it's that 5th dimensional transition. And if you can do that, and it uses a special variation of string theory called Randall-Sundrum 1, RS1. And the particles that you generate are called Kaluza-Klein particles, KK particles for short. Well, guess what? CERN is building another particle accelerator, and guess what they're investigating? KK particles.
KK particles.
And Livermore just announced recently that they created and sustained a fusion reaction for the first time. Okay.
Seriously? Yeah. Okay.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, to generate a KK particle, what do you need? Well, you need energy, right? Okay. So you have energy, but how would you generate that particle? You generate it using a fusion reactor. That's all you would need to generate enough particles to surround your spacecraft. Okay. And how would you generate it? You generate it with a particle accelerator that's powered by a fusion reactor. Have you ever wondered why UFOs are triangular or round? The saucer, the classic saucer. Do you know why? I think I know.
That's a good question.
I think I know. They're particle accelerators. They're circular, and they generate these. They have these conduits in there. They circle particles around until they make these KK particles, which surround them. The KK particles can also be gravitons in this theory, and gravitons are the force particle of gravity that we haven't found yet. Okay, but we found the force particles, the force carriers for all the other forces so far that we can see. But we have gravity waves, which Einstein didn't think we'd ever see. But we don't have gravity particles or gravitons that we can see yet. Maybe that's because they're out in the fifth dimension. That's where they are. They're out here. And if they're out there in the fifth dimension, then that's where we have to go to utilize them. So we generate them in our four dimensions, and they live out here. So they're not easy to see because they live out here. Now, if that's the case, now our fusion reactor inside of our unidentified flying object would generate these KK particles, sheet the craft in them, and if they're gravitons, they're 10 to the 17th times stronger than the gravitons holding you to that chair right now. So that's very powerful. They also create micro black holes, MBHs, micro black holes. And these black holes, these micro black holes, they only live fractions of nanoseconds. Okay, but if you keep generating them, you can have a net plus amount around your ship. Okay, and what does that do? If you're looking at somebody in a spacecraft that's generating these KK particles and micro black holes, and black holes suck, right? So what do the micro black holes do? Well, they're going to pull in a little bit of the atmosphere, maybe a couple of the atoms. The atmosphere might be lost. They're also going to mess with the light that's coming from the UFO that they're shrouding. So if you're watching a UFO that's utilizing these KK gravitons, it's going to shimmer. It's going to change colors. It's going to pop in and out. Now that's everything that's reported with UFOs. They do all those activities. They see that when they're seen, they do all these things. They seem to disappear and reappear. They seem to change color. They seem to shimmer and fade out. Okay. And people go, wow, what's that? That can't really happen. Well, it can, because if they're going into the fifth dimension, if you were watching them do that, watching with your eyes, that sees only visible light, you would watch them literally change color and possibly fade out. And now they're in the fifth dimension. If you're in the ship, you wouldn't notice any difference, except the rest of the universe is now really close to you because that fifth dimension, it's called the bulk, actually, BULK. That bulk location is so contracted that you could then punch out of our four dimensions, go into the bulk, and punch in somewhere else in a moment's notice. So the punch out, punch in process is what this variation of UFO propulsion could do for you. And everything we see a UFO do can be viewed as an artifact of these KK particles in use. Okay. Now, yes, I can tell you, Jim, well, they change color. Well, that could be atmospheric scintillation of an object near the horizon. Well, sure. Okay. There's a lot of astronomical explanations for everything I just described, the popping out, popping in, and apparently they disappear here and reappear over here. Well, the autokinetic effect, could be at play there, where your eye doesn't quite see where they vanished, and it tries to, figure out a path, and it's always wrong. Okay. Things like that. Okay. Fading out, fading in at the edge of visibility, then it comes back, So yes, however, these other things are also well understood phenomena that probably occur when you have these KK particles in use. I'm telling you, that's how they're doing it.
You know, I heard a talk one time by a gentleman named Robert Schroeder. Are you familiar with him?
I'm very familiar. Bob and I talk often. In fact, his book, Solving the UFO Enigma, I wish it was still in print. I have 2 copies here. Okay, Solving the UFO Enigma. Bob is an aeronautical engineer, physicist guy, and he had this idea that I'm telling you now. And I talked to him at length, and he basically said, spread the word, please, because, you know, he doesn't go out and do these talks that much at all. So I said, I'll take the charge because I'm in agreement with you. Whenever I do the talk, I mention Bob. Okay. In fact, I was just about to say Bob Schroeder because you know he's the guy that you know me. I don't take credit for anything that's not mine.
Yeah.
You know. So clearly, Bob had some really good ideas. I've since confirmed that other physicists, okay, out in Stanford, a physicist said this can happen, and some other folks as well. So clearly, this is not just something that's popular belief. There's some science behind this, and that's what we need. We need science, man. We need science. And again, you said it before. I'm not going to commit to something that is just outright unprovable. I will, if something is a hypothesis and isn't proven, what do? You develop an experiment to test it. And that's the whole point right here. We want to see if we can develop an experiment to test this. All right. There's a movie that I'm going to be involved with here, I think, in the next few months. And we're going to do just that. You know, if there's any of this technology in play, there should be ways that we can see what I call the skid marks of an alien race that's using this pop-out method from the 4 dimensions to go into this bulk and back again. Because on the way out and on the way in, there's a characteristic radiation that they may give off, which might include gamma radiation, Hawking radiation, all stuff that's gamma radiation is easy to detect. The Hawking radiation, not so much. So gamma radiation might be the clue. But the bottom line is, in other words, there's scientific ways that we can test this and not just say, I believe it. Because we all believe that we're not alone.
Right.
But we should have to prove that we're not alone.
Well, Mark, let me ask you this. You, of course, have been in tune with everything UFO for a long time. And here in the last 3 or 4 years, the Defense Department, the Navy, has come forward with the Tic Tac UFO, the gimbal, the Go Fast.
Yep.
And even these so-called balloons that we dealt with here recently.
Yeah.
Had you had a chance to analyze any of this stuff that the Department of Defense, the Navy, has come forward with on the Tic Tac or any of that? Do you have an opinion on any of that?
Yeah, I actually examined all the videos that were released publicly. I wrote a white paper for MUFON on it, and the Tic Tac. And again, I was going at it saying I do believe that they're here. I absolutely feel certain that they are. But the question is, does the data show it? And that's kind of important to determine. Right. Yeah. So I looked at the Tic Tac, really interesting. And one thing I noticed was they were using the Raytheon AT FLIR pod. That's the name of the pod slung under the F-18 Hornet that they had tracking this Tic Tac. And I noticed that the object was starting to track off to the side, okay? And when it got to the actual leftmost limit, then the pod shifted back looking forward. Now, when it did that, it made it look like the Tic Tac was zooming out of the frame because it was looking at it up close, and then it just moves. It moves back. And when it moves back, it looked like the Tic Tac zoomed out of the frame. But in fact, that was the recentering of the AT FLIR pod. So the Tic Tac one didn't convince me of anything. Then there was the gimbal. Remember that? The officer said, oh, look, it's rotating.
Right, yes.
Okay, and that sounds convincing because you got this Navy aviator guy saying, look, it's rotating. He's looking at the screen and watching these spiked things rotating. Okay, what were those spiked things? Were they actual things sticking off the ship, if that's what it was? I don't believe so, actually. I think we were looking at a lens flare from the bright infrared source, and we're looking at that bleed on that particular sensor. How do I know? Why would I make such a statement? Because sometimes the devil's in the details here, and sometimes the object itself of most interest is not the most interesting thing in the image. And in this case, that's true. You see that thing rotating, it dominates the view. It's going like this, and you're seeing these spikes rotating. And everyone's looking at that object. What they're not looking at is the cloud banks, also visible in that same set of frames. And every time it does this, the cloud banks do this. The cloud banks are bouncing a little bit as this thing is rotating. What's that tell you? It tells you that the rotation that you're seeing is not due to the craft rotating. It's due to something over the sensor of the pod inside the aircraft's AT FLIR pod rotating. Okay? As it does so, the cloud banks jitter a little bit as it does that. So the gimbal, as good as it looked, it wasn't conclusive. To go fast, that tiny little dot that the weapons officer says, "Woohoo, I got it," and he tracked it, right? Well, these guys, tracking something that small is quite an achievement. So he does that, he catches it, and I noticed the HUD data, and I looked at the HUD data, the heads-up display data that's telling us the altitude, speed, and all that. And I did some slant angle calculations. Excuse me. I did some slant angle calculations down to the water. Okay, and I discovered that the speed that the object was moving, if you do a min-max type speed, and right in the middle was 175 miles an hour for that go fast object, because the ship, the plane's going this way, the object's going that way, so it looks like they're going right past each other fast, but they weren't. 1 minute. Excuse me. So the go fast wasn't conclusive to me either.
What about go back to the Tic Tac though?
Yeah.
What about that one?
Yeah, I mentioned that the Tic Tac, it looked like it zoomed out of the frame, but that's because the AT FLIR pod recentered to face forward again, because it was tracking this thing moving this way over there. And then when it got to the left extreme, it then recentered the pod. And when it does that, from the camera's perspective, you got the Tic Tac in there. And all of a sudden, now remember, the thing's aimed this way now, almost at the Tic Tac, when it's over there. But then when it shifts back, the Tic Tac's going to look like it's going whoosh. So that high rate of speed isn't convincing to me. So what's more convincing is the reports of the pilots. Okay, when they say things. Now, here's something that wasn't caught, which I firmly can understand, and that was Dave Fravor suggested that there was a Tic Tac that came down near the surface, and then something was bubbling up underneath it. All right, maybe another Tic Tac coming up from under the depths, in the depths, because I believe that that's where alien civilizations will set up shop on our planet to stay away from us. They'll go where we are not, and that is underwater.
Perfect. So what would be your conclusion on all three of those?
My conclusion is that the three of those are not conclusive proof. They're not definitive, unfortunately.
Just not convinced that they're alien technology.
No, because they can be explained by a number of other things. As a matter of fact, at one point, I forget which one it was, maybe for one of them, I superimposed the image of an F-18 projected away from you onto the image. And I noticed there was some ghosting and stuff of what was in the image that actually matched the profile contours of an F-18 at distance. And now, is it possible that that particular footage was actually a combat air patrol with another F-18 that was pulled, and they might have thought that maybe they're looking at the infrared image of an unidentified object? I don't know. I just know that, you've got to be really careful, and you've got to get the data from a trustworthy source, right? And to suggest that the government isn't trustworthy is to tell you something you already know. Right?
So again, Mark, you stay with the data regardless of what popular opinion is.
Yeah, I can't be bought. I don't care what people say.
Do in MUFON.
Yeah. I
Okay,
can't be bought.
Moving on. You're involved with FX models.
Yes.
Exactly what do you do with FX models?
FX Models is a company I started in 1994, and it started as a model making company. It was a hobby at first, I mean, I made a couple of little model kits. Hey, look what I'm doing, building things that other people made as kits, and I built the kits. Oh, look, I made these cool models. But then I have these radio control submarines. And in the other room, I have a 7-foot German U-boat up on the shelf that I used to run right in the lake that's right out front here, down the street. And this 7-foot U-boat has
For some reason, I absolutely believe that, Mark.
I could show it to you if I had a long enough cord. I could show you. And I ran it in the lake. It has a ballast tank system. It runs like a real boat. So you flood the ballast, it goes down. You blow the ballast with compressed air, it comes up. Okay, so I did that for many years. Then I decided I'm going to make the Alvin submersible, the Alvin that found the Titanic, that white little stubby thing with a red sail, really pretty. So I made that as a kit. And next thing you know, I had a production company call and say, Mark, we're doing a show called Nautilus. It'll be filmed in London. We'd like to know if you'd like to go with your radio control craft and perform them for us on set. No, I don't want to do it. Of course I want to go, right? So I ended up in London with my cousin, and we were there for a week and a half filming Nautilus with the Alvin and a bunch of other little Trieste and a Curve, which is a special Navy remote vehicle. We built all of them for the show, and we made them look nice and weathered so that it looked like it'd been there a while, So we had a fun time. And I thought, hey, this could end up becoming quite a career if it takes off. And when I came back, I got a phone call from General Dynamics. Now, I'm in Connecticut. General Dynamics is in Groton, Connecticut, New London. Okay. And they said, I saw an article in the Hartford Courant, which is the statewide paper, and it said, we saw that you're doing these submarine models. Would you be interested in maybe doing some for us? Sure. So I went down, I met with them, and I've been doing their and I've been doing their model work since 1995. Outsourced. I'm not an employee, and so I ended up doing. In fact, just yesterday they ordered another model to make. These are display models that we make too. So that's become quite a little cottage industry, if you will. And so FX Models makes generally submarine models. We've done DSRV, Mystic, and Avalon, which are rescue vehicles. We've done rescue chambers, divers, dry deck shelters, and all kinds of things along with the submarines themselves. And the honest truth is that, when COVID hit, I had to start working alone. So I had to invest in technology. So I invested in, you can't really see it, but it's right there. Okay. It's in the dark. I invested in an SLA printer. So I have a stereolithography system now that'll print something out so accurately that you can't even tell it was made on a 3D printer. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. In fact, I have a model of the moon that I could show you.
That's what I'm going to get to. You also do planets and the moon, and
I do.
Correct?
Yeah. Can I go grab it?
Absolutely.
I'll be right back. It's right there. So you'll see. So imagine if you will, that you like our moon, right? Well, this is our moon, okay? And you can see all the detail. This thing, I know the camera doesn't even do it justice, but you have all the craters in here, and it's really quite accurate. As a matter of fact, I'll see if I can do it this way. Okay. So you can see the craters, right? They're all here, and all the seas with a different, the Maria, right? The Maria are the seas. You can see how accurate that is. This is extremely detailed.
That's amazing.
Right? Yeah, and this is a one shot right off the 3D printer, and then I painted it. Now we're getting a mold made of this, and these are going to become available to people who want the moon for themselves. Okay, it's going to be the size of a little ball, and it'll be made of a very, very resilient resin. So it's going to be kind of cool, and people will enjoy it. I have a second one I made. It's this big, actually. Here's half of it, right here. All right, and this is another one that's going to be made. And it's again, this is only half. But the two halves go together, and you've got all these craters. Look at that. That is just amazing. So I am doing planets and things like that as well. And people just love them. The other thing that I make is lunar craters. So if you have a specific crater on the moon you like, we actually make them as 4x4 plates. And you have the perfect craters, all 3D, all painted nice. Because I'm an artist, right? So I had to paint them up. So we have every crater on the moon, almost, actually, that you might want. Well, we have to get them through my website, fxmodels.com. And we're going to be adding them. They're not there now. You'll also be able to get them as products on SkyTour Livestream, which is our remote observatories. And those are going to be available there, too. And people just love these. I mean, we have all the Apollo landing sites. You can see all the details. You don't see the lunar modules because at the scale we're showing you,
right?
It's a scale you're looking from like 50 miles above the moon, looking down. But you can see for like Apollo 15, for instance, you can see Hadley Rill and all these areas around where the lunar module would have landed. So it's really neat stuff. And so I've been taking submarine models and, going from inner space down below to outer space. Here, not so much, but, hey, those two have plenty of model making capability out there.
So is the entire solar system available?
We were making very large planets for a number of years. In fact, right near you in Wickenburg, out in Surprise, which is right near you, there is a child daycare center that has our planets hanging from the ceiling. And it's one of 120 different buildings that we've put these in. And Jupiter is 4 feet across. Okay. The planets are not in scale with each other, but they're
across.
Yeah. Actually, I had to get them there before the room was finished because they wouldn't fit through the door. So they had to be stored in the rooms of all these daycare centers and then installed after the room was closed off, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, and so that was a good project. That lasted about 4 years. And then after that, we have planets that we make virtually any size now.
Perfect.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about Marc D'Antonio, the astronomer.
I know that guy.
Yeah, I remember a few years back, you were the guy that would give lectures about the populated universe and the number of exoplanets that are out there. Where are we at now? How many actual exoplanets that are out there are in the so-called Goldilocks zone?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that because that is the $1 million question, right? I mean, we know just offhand and not being flippant about it, that there is approximately one planet for every star in the universe. So we know there's at least as many planets as there are stars in the universe. And in general, if our solar system is any indication, that's a huge underestimate, isn't it? Sure. So looking at our world, okay, we are at a specific distance from the sun, a particular kind of star with a particular amount of heat, particular types of radiation, a particular kind of stability. And if you keep going down the list of all the things that have to be so particular, you say, well, then it's probably a miracle there's life here at all. However, you also have to look at the fact that there are so many other stars out there that can support planets in the habitable zone, that likelihood that there's no life out there, that would actually be the true miracle. It turns out that it's a miracle that we're here, but it also would be a miracle that there aren't many, many millions, if not hundreds of billions of others throughout the universe. Keep this in mind.
So, how many exoplanets are on record right now? I mean,
just over 5,000. 5,000. And that's using the techniques we know so far. That's just looking at various spots in the sky, predominantly an area in the constellation of Cygnus, which is a fist-size area, the size of my fist you see there, at arm's length, in the August sky looking straight up. Okay, most of them are found in that little tiny region because that's where we focus with the Kepler Space Telescope.
Right.
Then the TESS transiting exoplanet survey satellite did a job. It had like a 92-degree field by 25 degrees. It was massive swath, and it was looking at all the stars in there all at once, which was actually pretty cool. And so that was an amazing program. And as of now, with TESS and Kepler, and then the extension to Kepler called K2, plus the ground-based systems that are looking for exoplanets, we're sitting just over 5,000 right now. And of those, there are a number that are in the habitable zones of their stars. Say 10% of the stars out there that have planets may have habitable zone planets as well. And I'm underestimating that. It's more probably like 20%. Okay. And depending on the type of star you are, okay, if you're a hot blue star, you won't have any planets because the radiation is so powerful and intense, it's pounding against you all the time. It's going to push all that stuff out of their local area, and you'll never have planets. If you're a star like our sun, then you can actually have a more gentle wind, more gentle particle spray. And so not all of the dust and gas will be eliminated from your local area, and planets will form.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about the James Webb Telescope.
Oh, yeah.
And its contribution so far, but let's talk about your telescope.
Well,
and you have a program.
Yeah, we have. We started. Here's how it started. Okay, first of all, what is it? It's a series of remote telescopes around the country. What does that mean? It means they're remotely accessible. As we're speaking tonight, I have the building open out in Arizona, in the desert, where our second telescope is located, and we're planning on doing a stream later tonight, probably around 10:30 or so, and Eastern. And this is and since this is being pre-recorded, I guess I have to say that by the time you're hearing this, folks, it will have already happened. So that's just that. And my telescope focuses better than my camera, so don't worry about that. So we created this series of telescopes, and I call it Sky Tour Livestream. Sky Tour Livestream. And the YouTube channel, Sky Tour Livestream with Marc D'Antonio. I had to add my name because somebody was being unscrupulous and was trying to steal the name and capture all my audience by just calling it Sky Tour Livestream. So I added my name to the channel, and they can't add my name to their channel. So that ended that real fast. So it doesn't have to do with any kind of ego here. It just has to do with practicality and maintaining your hold over what you're creating. And what are we creating? Well, I'm an astronomer. This is what we look like. And so what I do is I do these nightly. Right? Yeah, looks like a lumberjack. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. Yeah. But what I do is I take people on a nightly adventure and I bring them to the universe live in real time. That's what we say. And the universe live in real time Here you see it, and this is the telescope right here. You're looking at right out there in the building. That's the telescope. Connected now. This is our telescope control. This is the actual view. Why does it look greenish blue? Well, it looks that way because the telescope's sort of staring at the wall. And then on the other side, let me just move this out of the way here. On the other side here, this is the camera controls. All right. This is the focusing system that's over here. So all this stuff means something to me. So and to everybody that watches. And what we do is we can share with people what we do. Let me just make it this way so it's a little easier on the eyes. So, for instance,
can we go full screen on this?
Yeah, but that's at your end. You can. Yep.
Patricia, can you go full screen on that?
There you go. So, for instance, as I said, this is our telescope control right here. Okay, there's our telescope. Watch what happens when I hit north. Telescope goes up. Now, you might say, well, so what? That's no big deal. Well, it is a big deal because I'm 2,500 miles away from this telescope right now. And I'm controlling it from Connecticut. And it's out in the Arizona desert. So I can have the telescope go look at anything and move anywhere in the sky. And we have another program that we use, which is a planetarium program, which I'll even start up. Why not? And this planetarium program connects to our telescope and allows us, and this is a free program, by the way, allows us to literally connect and watch the skies and take ourselves to any place in the sky. All right. So, for instance, for this guy, what I'll do here, I'll just show you. I'm going to disconnect and reconnect, and now you'll see a little indicator show up on the view. There it goes. That little crosshair, that shows you where the telescope's looking right now in the sky. So we have all this stuff talking to each other. We've got this system here, which is the camera system, talking to the telescope. The telescope is talking to this program. This program is reporting its position. And so we see a tremendous number of things. And if we were to remove the atmosphere and just show you where things are, well, I can say, well, there's Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. And I can say, let's go there. Right. And now I told it to go. And what you'll see is the telescope now go up. There it goes. And right now it's still daytime out there. So we're probably not going to see it. Okay. But Sirius would be right in here if we were to show this. Okay. So there's an awful lot that we can do. And I'll give it a shot. I don't know if we'll see it, but it's going to be really, really dim if we did. But it can. I've seen stars during daytime with this myself before. So, but we're looking at the sky right now, and right now it's on Sirius right now, and so there it is, and so it's pointing there. So at night we look at all these different objects, you see, and people just love it. They love it. So we got a lot to do. We have a lot of instruction we give. This is, I call this a night vision mode. And I think maybe, let's see. I'm looking to see if it's actually here. Yeah, it's still a little bit too light. The sun is still up, as you can see, so we're not going to see it. And that's all right. But you get the idea. Really cool. So, but the whole point is now, what do we do with this? Well, we show people these things in the night sky. Now, what are these things? Well, if you'd like to see some of those, I can show you what we've actually done and things we've seen. I think you'd like that. So why don't we do that?
Yeah, please do.
Sure. So as an example, here is an object we took a picture of. All right. This is called hold on. What happened there? I must have hit the wrong one. Why did it say that? Oh, I had the wrong one. My apologies. Okay, so we'll come out of here. Let's go down. I think it's this one is probably better. There it is. Sorry. Okay, so this is an example of what we photograph. Now, what the heck is that? Okay, this is called the Boogeyman Nebula. Look at that. Now, this was a 30-second exposure. So I had the sensor open for 30 seconds, and it captured this beautiful object. This down here is a reflection off of dust clouds. This is dark dust that's silhouetted by brighter hydrogen-emitting clouds behind it. It almost looks 3D. Okay, this is an example. Okay, now this is just if you're looking at Orion, it's to the upper left of the constellation of Orion. Okay, and if we take it a step further, we can go and say, well, here's another one. Here's another one. This one. Look at this one. This is called the California Nebula. Can you guess why? Kind of looks like California.
It kind of looks like California.
You got it.
You know,
Now,
I noticed, Mark, that
Yeah.
the universe, when we look up at night, we see black and white.
That's right.
The universe is actually filled with color.
It is. It is. And the reason you see only black and white has to do with the way your eyes work. You have what are called rods and cones in your eye that you've known. Now, the rods are black and white receptors, and those primarily ring the retina. They're around the edges of the retina. And the cones, the color receptors, those are in the center, right? So when you look straight at something at night, you don't see it as well as when you kind of look a little to the right of it. And now you see it out here. That's called averted vision. And averted vision is how you see dim things at night, because when you look to the right, it's the rods which are getting the majority of that light now. And they're more sensitive than the cones because they only see black and white. See? So rods and cones evolved to, show us things from a bright star. They didn't evolve to do anything other than keep us safe from predators at night. We had no need for infrared sight, but some creatures do have the ability to see infrared. We don't have any need for ultraviolet sight, but some creatures, bees, for instance, do have the ability to see ultraviolet in the ultraviolet spectrum because they evolved to require it for their life processes. They have to find those flowers. For instance, they have to get the pollen and then the nectar, and then unwittingly take the pollen to the next plant. See, so these things you see right here, if you saw this in a telescope, it would just sort of look like a whitish cloud, a fuzzy, faint whitish cloud. But you had to take it the next step. This is a gas cloud of hydrogen gas, and it's being excited by this star right here. This star right here called Menken is a star that is actually so hot. It's I think it's like a type O star, one of the hottest stars there is. And that star is shooting energy out this direction. And you can see it's making kind of an arc on the front of this object. It's pushing the stuff away. And so it's starting to make an arc around itself of this material. Again, this is a snapshot in time. But if you look at that, that's just a beautiful example of how the universe works. And you could take this and say, oh, that's a beautiful red nebula. Or you can say, this is a red nebula, but there's also some dark nebula in here. Dark nebulae are made of carbon compounds, silicon compounds, and they actually have the building blocks of life in there. And so it's within those dark nebulae mixed with this hydrogen gas where life is born. And so hearing it that way, you view the universe very differently, don't you?
Beautiful. Mark, now you have some beautiful pictures, some beautiful photographs. What do you do with these photographs? When we take these... Do you make a Marc D'Antonio calendar or something?
I haven't yet, but that's we do have a store that we're starting up so people can actually buy coffee mugs and rugs, literally, and blankets, which have these on them. We have samples of some of these things, and they are absolutely visually stunning. But that's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because we want to educate in astronomy, but we have to keep being able to afford doing it, right? I mean, right. It's several $100s a month just in expenses to keep the observatories running. So we depend on a Patreon, and we have a website called skytourlive.org. Skytourlive.org is a wonderful site that we created to show people what we do, and I will show it to you now if I can. We are a 501c3. That means nonprofit company. So here it is. That's one of our pictures right there. They're all our pictures. This takes you, SkyTour Livestream, this takes you, if you go to skytourlive.org, this takes you, no, I don't have a question. Thank you. It's me. SkyTour Livestream will take you to our site. The SkyTour Livestream Patreon page is here. You can contact us. You can do other things. You can hear about SkyTour Radio, our radio show, and learn about us. Now, when you say, what do you do with the pictures? Well, we have an online database. And we actually have a server where you, as free subscribers on YouTube, want to go. Basically, it takes you here. Now, what is this place we're going to? This place you're going to, this is a record from all the way back to the 11/8 of 2021. All the nightly objects from 11/8, 2021, all the way to, let's see, when was the last time we did this? The 9th of April, which was 2 days ago.
Just a few days ago. Yeah.
Okay, so we did that. Now we also have some images that might be fun to look at, which are kind of cool. This is the very, very first marking ever made out in the desert for the observatory. This was the stake. This is the stake in the ground that literally ended up becoming our observatory. Okay. Now, we poured the concrete, and that night, it was hard enough for me to stand on. This here is Darkwindowaz down here, and this here is the landowner and his dog. And they're very much into this. This is a sunset shot that I shot on that slab that night. It was just beautiful. It looks like a painting, and almost. But then the building was underway. They actually built the building, and getting out there was all dirt roads, as you can see. Mm-hmm. We have this separate camera. That's a separate all-sky camera that sees everything in all directions at all times. So that's something that makes it so that we can't be surprised by anything. And we also watch the whole evening change moment to moment, and then make a movie at the end of the night showing what happened. You see meteors, you see planes, you see all kinds of things. Okay, this is installing the main pier inside the building, and then another beautiful sunset over the top of the roof that was open in this case. And then there it is. There's a telescope without the shroud on the front. Mm-hmm. Okay, all set to go. And so this was a beautiful thing. And then this is our door. This says STLS for SkyTour Livestream, and that's an Orion Nebula. And Orion Nebula, of course, is the Great Nebula in Orion. It's one of the only ones you can see with your eye. And Darkwindowaz, the artist in residence with SkyTour Livestream, made this entire door. These are bottle caps, colored bottle caps. They have not been changed in their color at all. This is how they originally were. These are a particular brand of beer. These are a particular brand of ale. These are an orange drink. These are orange drinks down here. It's pretty cool. That's just how they came. And why did Tara have so many bottle caps? I don't know, but she sure wanted to get rid of a bunch of them.
Mark, we're out of time. We have to wrap it up. This is a good
spot.
All
right.
It's been a fascinating hour.
Well, it's been great, Jim. Thanks for letting me hang out with you for a while.
I'm so glad that you came on the program. And I know, again, you're going to be speaking around the country in different places, and
Oh yeah, I didn't even tell you, but yeah, you're right. Contact in the Desert, June 2 through 4, then Roswell, June 30 to July 2nd. I was at Alien Con already, and then was at Roswell once already for Tom Reed's UFO Expo.
Right.
And then of course we have the filming for A&E to do.
So anyway, that's great, and thank you, Mark, for coming on my program. We have to, there it is right there. SkyTour live stream is available on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. I don't know these venues.
Yeah, Trovo and Rumble though. Rumble, we're coming soon to Rumble. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're multi-streaming now. That's new for us.
No, great. Anyway, thank you, Mark, again. And so, everyone, on behalf of myself, Patricia Wilkinson, my program manager, and Marc D'Antonio, thank you for joining us, and we'll be back again next week for another guest. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.